And so the conversations continue. By the way, the Warriors lost to the Clippers last night. Monica McNutt up with us early this morning in Phoenix as she travels with the Knicks. And Brian Windhorst will start with you. So we hear finally from the Warriors' biggest names yesterday. What sorts of things, what did you hear in those guys' words, and what other things did you hear around the league yesterday?
Well, Michael Dunleavy, their general manager who spoke before, Steph Curry and Steve Kerr echoed pretty much the same sentiment, which is they need Draymond to make some changes, but they are still supporting him and believe on the other side of this that he will return to being the productive player that he's been largely for the last decade. But the thing about it is that there's empathy for Draymond Green out there. Rudy Gobert said as much last night, speaking for the first time after the suspension, after what happened to him. But there's not sympathy for the Warriors. They recognize that there's been 4 suspensions since the Warriors basically gave him a repercussion-free, situation after the punch to Jordan Poole, and that they have sort of reaped what they've sowed here. And at the end of the day, if Draymond Green does need some, to have some help to deal with whatever is causing this, everybody wants to support that. But what has been clear as I have talked to people in the league and players as well, nobody wants to get hit in the face when they're playing defense. Nobody wants to get kicked in the groin. Nobody wants to get stepped on. Nobody wants to get choked. And so beyond all the feelings and the words and everything like that, because Draymond Green has said words before, the Warriors have said words before, bottom line, it's got to stop. So now it comes down to the actions that are taken by the league, by the Warriors, and especially by Draymond.
So, Monica, we've not had you here this week, and I think everyone is interested to hear what your perspective on all of it is, going all the way back to Tuesday night, and then all the reaction and the things you've heard also from the players that you've been around.
Well, I will say that I think indefinite was a little bit of a double-edged sword in that you don't want to see that idea tossed around flippantly. But I do think the sentiment seems to be that it is 100% appropriate because you just don't know what is going to be needed to actually reach a resolution and make progress when we're talking about Draymond's behavior. Wendy nailed it. I'm over here nodding my head as he said it. There's empathy, but not sympathy. And I think to the incident on Tuesday night, if you look at the still photos, the Warriors bench is not reacting. The looks are completely fed up and come on, dude, we're over it. And so I think internally, it's just been a matter of time until we got to this point, and here we are.
What sorts of things you travel with the Knicks, and you had a game 2 nights ago, and you're there in Phoenix for that now. I'm sure players are talking about this. What sorts of things are you hearing the other players around the league saying about it?
Well, the sentiment seems to be, come on, dude, you just can't do that. And so I think in particular, it's interesting, and I know you guys have talked about it a ton this week. It is sort of the culmination of this behavior that is no longer acceptable and this interesting state of affairs when it comes to the Warriors being who we've seen them be over the last decade. And so I think guys just want the opportunity to play basketball without a bunch of antics. This is not even about bullying. It's not about being the tough guy. This is just ridiculous antics, and it's not a part of the game. So I think people were a little bit surprised by indefinite, but nobody felt like the sentiments that I've heard, nobody felt like it was inappropriate.
So, Wendy, then let's consider also the repercussions on this dynastic group. Steve Kerr is desperately trying. You were telling us in our meeting he made changes in his starting lineup last night and all sorts of things. They're desperately trying to find some answers for a team that feels like it is coming to the very, very end of something that has been very special. Where does it go from here?
Yeah, they are absolutely scrambling as a team right now. Steve Kerr took Andrew Wiggins out of the starting lineup last night. The first time in his career he has not started a regular season game. He put Brandon Podziemski, who's their rookie, who they never thought they would start in a December game, into the starting lineup. Jonathan Kuminga replaced Draymond Green. They're searching. They are now 4 games under 500. They were 0-3 on this road trip. The Western Conference is deep and robust, and they are losing ground, and there's no sign of when Draymond can be back. Steve Kerr is hopeful that these changes are going to spur them. He said he likes them. He actually thinks they're going to go on a run. I'm peeking ahead at their schedule. They've got games with the Celtics and Nuggets coming up. They've got a couple games with the Blazers. I don't think it's going to be easy at all for them. And now, 25 games into the season, their margin for error is non-existent. They are holding this together right now. I wouldn't give up on any team in the NBA in December because I know the restorative value of the length of the season. But they're in a rough spot. They're in a rough spot right now, and they definitely are crumbling a little bit.
Now that we hear from Steph Curry and we hear from Steve Kerr, and you've been on the road with the, an NBA team as you cover the Knicks, so you're hearing from a lot of people. What are your biggest picture thoughts on where we stand right now with Draymond Green suspended indefinitely?
The suspension is indeed warranted. The action was ridiculous. And to a degree, the Warriors have to take some responsibility. As I've listened to this whole thing unfold and all of the sound now, Greeny, it echoes what we heard when he stepped away from the team after the Jordan Poole incident. And so growth is not necessarily a perfect ladder and linear. However, the Warriors had signs sort of that maybe some sort of self-work needed to be done away from the basketball court. I think maybe probably before the rest of the league to a degree.
You know, Wendy, you made that point. You've been on our morning meeting the last several days. I can't recall which day, but you said that to me earlier this week, and I think it's an important point. Many of the things we are hearing from the Warriors now, we have heard before, which I can see where that might draw some skepticism on the parts of other people.
Yeah, if you go back and look at the quotes from Steve Kerr after, forget about the Jordan Poole incident, forget about the Rudy Gobert incident. I mean, go back to Steven Adams back when that incident happened, LeBron James. Like, they've been saying the same things for years now. And frankly, they probably have said the same things to Draymond Green, and it hasn't worked. And so as you talk to the people in the league and you hear from players, Rudy Gobert himself last night saying he had empathy for what Draymond is going through, you do feel that. But on the other hand, there's been no sympathy for the Warriors. Draymond Green has behaved this way for years. The Warriors, in one way or another, have enabled it and or supported it. They have said things, but the actions haven't followed. So really, at this point, it's all about those actions. It's not about anything that Steve Kerr or Steph Curry say. It's not even about anything Draymond says. It's about his actions going forward, because everything that he has done over the last year has indicated that he does not fear any retribution. And so now we have some serious retribution. We'll see if anything changes.
And in the meantime, Wendy, what, if anything, do we know about the process? The thing about an indefinite suspension is that it is indefinite. There is nothing certain that we are aware of. So what do we know as far as what will have to happen and how long we should reasonably expect it to be before we might see him on the court again?
Well, the league is keeping it intentionally vague, and the thing that they're really staying away from is any number of games. They don't want that to be a discussion at all. Frankly, they don't want us talking about whether a certain number of games is appropriate. They want to focus on the root cause of this, not on the punishment. So that's what we will give them the leeway to do and let Draymond Green do that. Right now, the Players Union is on board with this, and I think the relationship between the executive director of the Players Union, brand new Andre Iguodala, and Draymond Green is significant here. At some point, and if there's no definition of a schedule for Draymond, I think the Players Union could start to make some noise about that. But for the time being, the league is pushing that off. I will say this, I would not expect it to be short term. And in that vein, Steve Kerr made major changes to his starting lineup last night, bringing Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Pozinski in there, and he wants to keep it that way for the foreseeable future, which means he doesn't think he's going to see Draymond Green for the foreseeable future.
No, I think that feels right. And as we sort of go around all of that, Monica, I've had people ask me this question. I'll ask it to you, just as one who's been around the league and is talking to people. Does it feel like we are seeing the end of something here? This is a Warriors team with Draymond directly in the middle of it, and an absolutely critical piece of it that has put together one of the truly great dynasties the sport has ever seen. Does it feel like we're watching the end of it to you?
We are certainly watching the end of the Warriors as we know it. What that looks like in terms of their aspirations in a postseason, do I see this as a championship roster? Greeny, we go back to opening night. You and I had this conversation. They are still small, and Draymond is one of their most versatile guys. And yes, Steph is still putting up elite MVP caliber numbers, but you're seeing it begin to take more and more of a toll on him. And so, yes, I think we are seeing this thing come to a close. And I got to say, Wendy, he mentioned the root cause. I completely agree with that intention. But this could be an excavation. Like, we don't know how long this is going to take if the league is sincere about getting to the root cause. That's a loaded phrase. And so then just on the basketball of it all, they're thrilled about Brandon Podziemski. Jonathan Kuminga is going to get this time. But Kevon Looney is listed at 6'9", and Andrew Wiggins is still going to be a key in terms of playing good basketball if they're going to have any major success this year. It was great to see Klay get back to a vintage Klay performance last night. But yes, we are seeing this thing wind down.